That's the joke.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Oh, it just pops right back
I
on.
know it does.
You're fine. Yep, see. If you could quit breaking our studio, that would be great.
My bad. Don't tell me what to do.
So we're not going to have much to talk about today. Not a thing. Not a thing.
I cannot read this because the mics are open, but I'm Facebook messaging with a high school coach.
Oh.
And I'll tell you afterwards. He probably does not want me broadcasting his his thoughts. It's weird that we don't have anything to talk about today.
Yeah, it's going to be a boring show.
So the party I went to last night.
I don't care. Okay. Your stupid Christmas parties. No one cares about your stupid Christmas
It was
parties.
a potluck.
And what did the Teppers bring to the potluck?
Like a dip. They asked us to.
Like a dip.
They're good friends of ours, and so we asked them on like Tuesday. We were like, "Hey, what have people said they aren't bringing yet that you need?"
Uh-huh.
I like doing that at the potluck, coming in late to the game. So we brought a dip. They had built a really cool fire pit out back. Big fan of the fire pit. Fire pit can be fun.
Fire pits are good. We had a fire pit at my parents' house back at the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Right on the shore there. Solid.
It's a fun.
It's a fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I talked to my buddy, and we are going to go to Abilene for the six-man state title games next week. So if you're going to be in Abilene, if you're watching the pre-show, if you're going to be in Abilene for the six-man state title games, by all means, come down and say hi, and please don't berate me too much. I have a very fragile ego. Yeah, should be fun.
That sounds pretty fun.
I know you're going to go to some state semifinal.
We'll see.
Fine.
We'll
Or
see
you can come.
what is available at the time.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad the cap is on. Or you can come to Abilene.
I really want to go to Abilene. That's not really the issue. It's more just more eyeballs at more games.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of important.
I need to put in for credentials, actually.
You mean they don't just let you walk in? Oh, here's Greg Tepper.
Dude, I think you have a...
Twitter's Greg Tepper.
Hi, I think that you have a gross mischaracterization of what the UIL thinks of me. Just because Dr. Els is my friend doesn't mean that I can get away with anything or actually get in anywhere. I'm gonna need to. Ooh. Yes, y'all. It is DCTF Live. Thursday, December 3rd, 2015. My name is Greg Tepper, managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. Episode number 33, the Cliff Lee episode. Over there is the director of digital for Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. It's Max Thompson.
Hello, Greg.
Hi, Max.
I felt like we needed to come in with the Nightline Bulletin. Ba, 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 ba.
Anything interesting?
This is a Katy UIL special report.
Anything interesting happening today? It's a shame. It's a shame when it's just such a boring day in Texas high school football, right? So, if you couldn't tell, we're being a bit facetious, and
I bet they could tell.
we're going to be talking in a bit with Danny Davis about this situation because he was at the specific event, but also about Central Texas high school football. A couple big games in Central Texas. And so we probably need to start from the beginning, which begins about 3 o'clock yesterday. We had gotten done with DCTF Live. We're sitting around. I'm knitting, as I usually am in the office.
As you are wont to do.
Yes. And a bulletin comes across Twitter that there is going to be an emergency session of the State Executive Committee of the UIL.
Yeah.
And the State Executive Committee, for those who don't know, is kind of the governing body. They are the court. They're the Supreme Court of UIL and Texas high school football. And it is in regards to an eligibility issue with Katy. Katy, of course, this wrecking machine in 6A Division II. They've got a big game tomorrow night against Manville. But it was self-reported that Katy had used an ineligible player in their game last week against Friendswood. And so they go, and the possible ramifications here is that Katy could be kicked out of the playoffs.
Yep.
Could be disqualified.
Been down this road before, too.
Yes. In 1998, they were disqualified heading to the state championship games because they had used an ineligible player in the state semifinal or in a playoff game prior to that.
Yeah.
And so San Antonio and MacArthur went in their place.
Yeah.
So Katy has been down this road before. There is precedent here.
Yeah.
For Katy.
Not good precedent.
So
it's been a while, fairness.
So all eyes were on Austin and the State Executive Committee for the hearing on this eligibility issue with Katy. Yeah. And after we followed on Twitter, Danny Davis and Jenny Dial at the Houston Chronicle and a few other people were there and live tweeting it, and they did a fantastic job. Yeah. Shout out to them. And we'll talk with Danny Davis here in a bit. The long story short is that Katy will not forfeit, and Katy does move on. They receive 1-year probation for this infraction. They self-reported a kid who had moved in to the Katy area and had sat out the requisite 15 days that you have to when you sit out, but he was not enrolled by the time district certification, which is when you say to the UIL, these are the teams that are going to the playoffs, by the time they had gotten there. And that is a violation. Yeah. That deems him ineligible. Yeah. And so when he played 10 plays against Friendswood, Katy was using an ineligible player. And they did not dispute that they broke the rules.
Not even close. They
instead pleaded for mercy. Yeah. And that's what this was. You saw them pleading for mercy to this three-member panel, and the 3-member panel granted them mercy, and Katy will stay in the playoffs. I have a lot of thoughts to unpack on this.
Okay.
So if we can start. First of all, and I know that there are a lot of other people out there in the media who are going to disagree with me when I say this, but I think the UIL got it right. I think this is the right call. This is an instance in which the punishment, which would be to knock Katy out of the playoffs, disqualify the entire team, would not have fit the crime. Yeah. Now, Katy had been rather cavalier, and I think that the UIL did a good job of kind of playing both sides of this and sending a message to everyone else because they knew the whole state was watching and listening. Did a good job of saying to the state, this is not okay. Yeah. this is, they were put in a situation where they could either punish the team in what I think is an appropriate way, and set a dangerous precedent in that fashion, and we'll get to that in a moment. Or they could overly punish Katy and stick to their guns. I tend to think that you don't need to kick the team out of the playoffs for what they say was an honest mistake. And I don't feel like they would risk their entire season to play some kid for 10 snaps.
Sure.
So I think, in the end, I think the UIL got it right. There's that.
Okay.
Hard stop. Okay? Number 2.
Uh-huh.
This is a big problem for the UIL.
Yeah.
This is a huge, huge problem for the UIL because they just set a very, very dangerous precedent.
Yeah.
Because they essentially told the state, if you plead ignorance and you say, oh, I didn't mean to do that.
And we buy it.
And you do a good enough job convincing us that, oh, I didn't know the rule, or, oh, I didn't mean to, that it's okay.
Yeah.
That you can get away with anything. And that is an extremely dangerous precedent to set. And so now, I guarantee you, every other coach in the state, their ears perked up.
Yeah.
Because they have a little bit of an out.
Yeah.
If they ever get caught, all they say is, well, I didn't know.
Something to remember.
I didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then all they can do is point to Katy and say, look at them.
Yeah.
You had the ability to drop the hammer on them, and you didn't.
Yeah.
So why would you drop the hammer on us? And there's a lot of factors in this. Okay, there's a lot of things. Let's talk about what doesn't matter for a second. Let's talk about what doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who this kid is.
Right.
It doesn't matter if he's a big-time prospect. It doesn't matter what year he is. It doesn't matter anything. And honestly, I've seen his name floating out there, and I don't care.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant, and I don't think that kid who did nothing wrong needs to be
stigmatized.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't think that needs to happen. Here's what is interesting, though. If this weren't Katy, if this were...
I have said this a lot this morning.
If this were...
Kilgore.
No, let's even go less high profile. If this were High Island, if this were a 6-man team.
Yeah.
If this were High Island. High Island. You guys are good. If it were them, would the UIL have come to the same decision?
If this was Austin Aikens.
If this is Austin Aikens. If this is Houston... If this is Houston Scarborough, if this is any number of teams that are not
Katy,
that Katy is a program with pedigree. They're a program that is rolling right now. They knew the eyes of the state were going to be on them.
Let's be honest. This is a 20-year dynasty.
It's a 20-year dynasty.
There is, all due respect to some of the best teams in the state going right now. They have been doing this for 2 decades.
They have a big fan base.
Yeah.
They are an affluent area.
Yes.
Which cannot be overstated.
No.
If this is not Katy, does this same thing come down?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I know the answer to that. Again, I want to back up and say that I think the UIL got it right because I think in this particular instance, the punishment of kicking them out of the playoffs would not have fit the crime. That said, this is an extremely dangerous precedent that now opens the door to potential favoritism. To saying, you're the big school, we're going to let you keep playing, holding you to a different
so
standard.
much this year. It would be so unfair for us
holding
to do that
you
to
a
right
different
now.
standard than we're holding everybody else. So now the onus is on the UIL to come together at some point before next football season and do one of 2 things.
Yeah.
Either clarify the rules and make it extremely clear that this is the way it's going to be from now on, or change the rules. Yeah. Because right now, the way that they've got it right now, where they basically gave Katy a pass on breaking the rules. That is what happened. They did not... Katy never, ever said that they didn't break the rules. They said they didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Basically, they got caught speeding, and they got off with a warning.
I didn't know the speed changed.
They didn't know the speed limit changed. Yeah. They did not see the speed limit sign. Again, I think the UIL made the right move, but I think that this is a very dangerous precedent. And then one other point to make. is that I think Katy's going to face a perception problem here. That fair or not, and it's in many respects unfair.
Yeah.
But fair or not, there is going to be a statewide idea that Katy just pulled one over on us.
Yeah.
That Katy just got away with one. And that's something they're going to have to overcome.
Yeah.
That's something that they are going to be considered, they are going to be considered kind of, a team that you don't root for because they got away with one. Now, I don't think that's necessarily fair, but it is the reality of the situation.
Sure.
And this is a very tangled web of this situation that I think that it's good on Katy that they self-reported, although apparently
there's some murkiness about how much they really self-reported if it wasn't spurred by someone else's questions.
Correct.
Yeah.
That they got ahead of the curve in self-reporting. Yeah. I am glad that this is done and that we can focus on football, although we're going to talk to Danny Davis about it in just a minute, so it's not done. I'm glad that this is done. I'm glad that we're getting Katy versus Manville.
I am too.
From a football perspective, because it would have been a shame, all due respect to our friends at Friendswood, our friends at Friendswood, that they would have, but them coming in on a day's notice to come in and play, it would have, it would have been a no contest.
Yeah, it's just not fair. They wouldn't have had the prep time they need.
Exactly. I'm glad we're getting this game.
From a competition standpoint, as someone like you who agrees with the ruling and doesn't think that they were playing an ineligible player to their benefit, I think we would have lost something. All due respect to Lake Travis, Geyer, Mansfield, Manville, all these teams still in the fight. Steele. If one of them had gone on to win it and hadn't had to gone through Katy, I just don't think it would have been the same.
There would have been the asterisk.
Yeah.
It would have been like, oh, they did it, but they didn't. I want to see the best teams compete.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
I think the asterisk that would have come with winning a title that Katy wasn't involved in would have been bigger than the one that may come now that they win.
I think you're right. I think that's a great way of putting it. So there's a lot of murkiness in this situation, and of course there are going to be opinions all over the map. Let us know what you think. #DCTF Live. It is it's a situation that comes up every once in a while, and you deal with it when it comes up. And to recap, I think the UIL made the right decision in this particular situation, but they are wandering down a very dangerous road.
Yeah.
That's where I stand. Let me take care of a little bit of business if I can. May I?
I guess.
Okay. Let me pull that up. Hey, Texas high school football fans, when you make your plans for the state championships, book with Houston Hyatt Regency, which is offering hotel rooms for a discounted rate of $129 per night, and participating teams for $119 per night. Expect to be pampered at the finest contemporary hotel in downtown Houston as you get ready to dominate at NRG Stadium. Call 1-888-421-1442 when you're ready to book, and we will see you December 17th through 20th in Houston. We roll on DCTF Live. Of course, we're talking a lot about the Katy situation with that ruling coming down that Katy will not forfeit their game, and they will move on to face Manville tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. on Fox Sports Southwest at NRG Stadium. One of the guys who was at the ruling, one of the guys who was at the UIL State Executive Committee get-together, if you will, was Danny Davis of the Austin American-Statesman, and he joins us on the phone right now. Danny, you did an excellent job live tweeting. I thought your live tweeting ability was excellent. At what point during the hearing did you feel like this was going to go Katy's way?
First off, I need you to come with me to my next staff evaluation if you're going to.
I got you, man.
Like that. But, really not until the very end. I mean, it was kind of at the beginning of the meeting and kind of throughout the, interrogation of it. It seemed kind of, like Katy's, back was up against the wall. Dr. Brad got up, and I think he was kind of going a little bat for Katy. But even after that, it kind of seemed like, the panel was going to play by the rules and, follow the rule book. But then when each, panel member got up and James Colbert kind of leading the way, started speaking individually, kind of seemed like they were going to, not make them forfeit, just kind of slap them on the wrist. And, it was kind of before the vote came down, I think everyone in the room knew that was what was going to happen, but that wasn't the case throughout the entire hearing.
We're talking with Danny Davis, the Austin American-Statesman. Follow him on Twitter at AASDanny. And Danny, it was such an odd situation of an emergency meeting. Could you feel some tension in the room? Obviously, a lot at stake for Katy and a lot of pressure on the panel. Could you feel tension in the room?
I don't know so much tension. I mean, there's a lot of media in the room. Maybe if a couple Katy fans had made the move if the kid was there, but I mean it was pretty kind of straightforward. There were less people there than normal as far as administrative wise, the UIL, and obviously Katy had some representatives, and I think there were some lawyers in the room too. So maybe there was some tension in that regards, but it wasn't so much where you could hear a pin drop or anything like that. It was pretty much just kind of a straightforward meeting, although I guess maybe I was just paying too much attention to my tweets.
Yeah, we were feeling the tension on Twitter.
Yeah,
maybe it was just us in our room staring at this Twitter feed waiting for it to update.
Maybe it was. From my personal perspective, and I just got done going on a bit of a rant about it, I think that overall, I think the UIL got it right because the punishment would not have fit the crime. But I do think that this sets an extremely dangerous precedent for the UIL. From your personal opinion standpoint, not as a reporter, but just as a guy who follows Texas high school football.
And is at a lot of these UIL meetings. What's your take on what we just saw?
I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Katy should not have had to forfeit because some kid played on 10 plays in the game they won by 66. It wasn't like he was a starting quarterback or a significant player. I mean, that would have been a really tough pill for those two kids to swallow, and you really wouldn't do Friendswood any favors either because they'd have one day to prepare for a good Manville team. So, but, I mean, the UIL, I made a comment about this yesterday on Twitter. You just don't know what they're thinking. And, I've been into too many of these meetings. I'm sure you guys have too, where, these kids come in and they have these heartbreaking stories about having to move from one school to another for whatever reason, and sometimes that's athletics, sometimes there's a bad situation. The UIL shoots them down, and the entire time I was thinking, since Joanna Denson was on the committee, a couple weeks ago I went to a District 13-6A meeting because of a football tiebreaker, but she was there since she's the Pflugerville ISD athletic director, and there was a case before they got to the tiebreaker about a kid from Cedar Ridge. He's a freshman, and he wanted to run cross country, and he had been educated in a charter school through 8th grade. Before high school, decided he wanted to do sports that his charter school didn't provide, so he went to Cedar Ridge, which was his high school in his neighborhood. He didn't move, so he gets there pretty much like any other incoming freshman, and they ruled that he had moved for athletic reasons. And you think that that's common sense that this kid didn't have this opportunity at his other school, came in like every other freshman, and his parents didn't move houses or anything like that, and Joanna Denson was the one leading the charge. Everyone in the room kind of was like, this is kind of silly that we're going to make this kid ineligible for varsity competition, but she, kind of put her fist down and said we had to follow the rule book. And then, 2 weeks later, this situation here, and they're like, let's give some leeway. So, the UIL, we could do this trial tomorrow, and they may rule differently. It kind of depends on who's on the board and how they feel that day, and it's going to be interesting the next time a similar case goes in front of them.
So then you would say that you're not necessarily surprised just because the UIL doesn't necessarily have a hard and fast kind of stance on these types of things?
I'm not surprised. I didn't really think Katy was going to have to forfeit, to be honest. I think that's there may be a little bit too outside pressure, and it is Katy, and that's a huge program, and that'd be kind of a big stain on their on the playoffs if that happened. And this is kind of a business, and Katy is a Houston area school, and I didn't think that was going to happen. And with the way the UIL has handled things this year, with the the DeSoto wide receiver, all that mess with the Anderson kid, with the Jay hearings and this, I mean, it didn't surprise me. And it is disappointing with the way that this all kind of turned out, but I mean, nothing with the UIL is really that shocking.
He's Danny Davis of the Austin American-Statesman, joining us on DCTF Live. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag DCTF Live. Danny, besides being the, official UIL emergency meeting correspondent of DCTF Live, you also have a straight gig where you cover Central Texas high school football. A couple of big games that I know you've previewed on statesman.com this week, including Westlake takes on Atascocita. Talk about a clash of two teams kind of come from different places. Westlake kind of expected to be here. Atascocita kind of not expected to be here. When you look at this game, what do you make of it?
I'd actually forgotten I actually had games to work at this weekend and all this UIL stuff.
Sorry, man.
It's gonna be a little bit of a different challenge for Westlake. I mean, the first 3 rounds, Westlake's defense has played really well, but they've also played against teams that can't really pass. I mean, last week, North Mesquite, I mean, they might as well have just given their playbook to Westlake because it was just run, and Westlake's good at defending the run. Atascocita can throw the ball a little bit, and they have some good athletes on their team. So, Westlake's going to be tested. Obviously, they have Sam, Ellinger on their side of the football, and they have some D1 wide receivers. And they had a kid last week that ran for 100 yards that wasn't Sam Ellinger, so that may be a little bit of a boost to their offense if that can continue. So. It'll be interesting. I'll be at that game on Saturday, and I'll be interested to see how that goes. And I was joking early in the week. I mean, Atascocita eliminated Cedar Ridge a couple weeks ago, and of course, Cedar Ridge is coached by Todd Ford, who used to work for Todd Dodge. I'm sure Coach Dodge has made a couple phone calls this week to see how they'll get that scouting report. But I think Westlake will probably win this one.
I tend to agree with you, although I think Atascocita is the kind of team that you doubt at your own peril. Another team that's kind of a team that you doubt at your own peril is Rockwall, who had a remarkable come-from-behind victory over Spring last week. This week they draw Lake Travis. Lake Travis has been rolling even with all their injuries. It's remarkable to see them kind of put one foot in front of the other. When you look at this Rockwall-Lake Travis game, I imagine you see Lake Travis as a favorite, but what can you tell us about this one?
This seems like one of those games that no matter what the score, the starters are going to be playing in the fourth quarter. Even if Lake Travis is up big, I mean, Rockwall has shown the ability over these past 3 weeks that they just will not go away, and that they can score, and they can score quickly and score a lot of points. So, I still think it's important for Lake Travis. They want to win this to get up early. Their defense has been playing really well, surprisingly well, considering how important Sammy Ochoa was to that team. But their offense is efficient. Charlie Brewer, like Sam Ellinger, doesn't make many mistakes. He only has 2 interceptions this season. He doesn't have necessarily the weapons that Sam Ellinger has, but he has a very good group of kids. They're all juniors, so they've all been throwing around the football together for a long time. And their running game seems to have kind of been, revived with Malik Barkley and Santiago Villejas, and those kids have played really well, especially in that Waco Midway game last week. So. Lake Travis got a really good test a couple weeks ago against, Spring Westfield, and that seems to kind of propelled them, through Midway. And I think they should play pretty well against Rockwall. But like I said, no matter what the score is in the fourth quarter, Charlie Brewer is going to be out there because that Rockwall team is good.
Any other games either in your area or maybe outside your area that you're particularly interested in this weekend?
We got Vandergrift Vista Ridge. That's probably our game of the week. I'm excited. Rick Cantu, my coworker, got their regular season meeting, which was a shootout that Vandergrift was down by 28 in the first half and came back and won by 8 points, I believe. So that should be a good meeting. Obviously, Vandergrift's been kind of banged up, but Travis Brandon's been playing incredible in the postseason. Vista Ridge has just been underrated the entire year. I think when I was talking to Max a couple weeks ago, we just talked about how we didn't rank them in our preseason poll. I picked against them like 3 or 4 times this season, and they just keep on winning and proving us wrong. And it should be a good, fun, high-scoring game because both offenses are really good and the defenses have been kind of struggling a little bit. And your other game is Cedar Park and Cal Allen, and I think we'll be talking about Cedar Park again next week.
I think we will too, although Cal Allen, listen, you talk about pedigree, you talk about a team that expects to win and a team that has an identity. That's certainly Cal Allen. Can you also, this is Danny Davis of the Austin American-Statesman, I feel bad because I mentioned that you were my favorite bespectacled sports writer, and yet you corrected me that you were wearing contacts. Can we get some sort of Twitter feed for you about whether or not you're wearing glasses on any given day?
That would be helpful.
I mean, I wear glasses 95% of the time, but I have this, I got those like one-a-day contacts, and I have like a box of them in our bathroom, and I need to start clearing them out. So I just decided to throw some on today and mix it up a little bit.
So it was really more tidying up than anything.
Yeah, I'm trying not to be as much of a hoarder as I am, so that helps.
He's Danny Davis of the Austin American-Statesman. Find his fine work at statesman.com, and of course follow him on Twitter at AASDanny. Thanks for hopping on with us, bud.
All right, no problem. Have a good one.
There he goes, Danny Davis, the Austin American-Statesman, the man on the ground at the UIL State Executive Committee meeting this morning, where Katy was ruled to be still qualified to be playing in the playoffs. Interesting stuff. 4 big games there. In four brackets, four kind of Austin area teams.
Syntax alive and kicking.
Five if you count. You got 4 games with 5 teams. Should be
feeling with all those teams in the mix. We're gonna end up seeing Danny in Houston.
Probably so. Can I get a little bit of a shameless plug out of the way?
I'm sure.
If you are into that sort of thing, which not many people are, but if you are, and you're in the DFW area, 9:45 tonight on Fox 4, I will be on with the venerable Mike Ducey to talk high school football. I'll be wearing a tie, which is uncomfortable.
Oh, geez.
But that's Fox 4 in Dallas, 9:45 tonight. Tune in, lock in, join in. It'll be a lot
I'm
of
busy. I won't be able to see it.
fun.
But
Okay. I'm going to fill out, what I'm going to do for the rest of the day is that I'm going to fill out credential requests for the 6-man state championship games.
Woo!
Which I am very excited about. I do love 6-man. I'm fired up to go out there, and I think that as much as, you heard a lot of people complaining in the 6-man community about the games being at AT&T, because A, it's a long way away, and
Sure.
B, it's not a stadium that is particularly suited for hosting 6-man football.
6-man games, yeah.
Shotwell's like a mecca. I mean, it's either that or Heiko are the two hubs of Texas high school or Texas high school 6-man football. So should be a lot of fun. If you are out there in Abilene next week, and I'll keep reminding you guys, then by all means stop by, say hi, and please be gentle. That's going to do it for us. Thank you to Danny Davis of the Austin American-Statesman for hopping on with us and talking a little bit of Katy. Tomorrow we've got a very big show. Going to hopefully be joined by the winning coach of the Waco La Vega China Spring game tonight, which I took Waco La Vega, and I don't feel good about it at all. I think it's a coin flip type game.
Yeah.
That's just me. Plus, we will preview all the college action over the weekend. So much more. You won't want to miss DCTF Live. Tomorrow we are here every weekday at noon, and you can subscribe on the podcast on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And, of course, see us at texasfootball.com. Vince Young, please come get your Player of the Year trophy, and we will see you tomorrow on DCTF Live.